Hello and welcome to the last episode of Push to Smart for 2014. Today we'll be looking back at the year in games.
Last year we highlighted 10 games that we absolutely loved, and we're not going to do that this year. Of course, when you're choosing a game of the year, you have to choose from the games that you played. And I don't know if we were just bad pickers or what, but there was no Link Between Worlds this year.
No Link Between Worlds, no Gone Home.
At least that we played.
But the closest thing for me, my game of the year, the top pick, actually launched really early in the year, and I actually didn't get around to playing it until much later, and that is Infamous Second Son, which is, the third game in the Infamous franchise, and I tried very hard to get into the first two, but I found the games and the protagonists just so boring that I couldn't. And this game, everything is really good. The gameplay is excellent. The characters are all very interesting and well fleshed out, and it's the best of the year. What can I say?
Wow. Infamous always made me think of, Fetch from Mean Girls. It's why are you, do people actually why are you trying to make this happen? It just felt like something that Sony was thrusting upon the world. Yes, this is a event. This is something people are into. And it's I don't know anybody that likes Infamous. Are
I know. I felt
these?
the exact same way. It's why are you releasing collector's edition? Are there any Infamous collectors? What is going
exactly.
on?
It's who buys the collector's edition? It's not you buy the collector's edition. It's legitimately, who buys it? I have never met someone who buys it.
We actively want to know. We're not judging. We're just curious. But yeah, Delson, right off the bat, he kind of gets a few points away from being voiced by Troy Baker. And I have that Troy Baker fatigue. But he was just such a cool character. And just every named character in the game was so interesting. And they felt like they existed outside of just you needing them in some way.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they felt like real people in a way, as much as game characters can.
That seems like the biggest hurdle for games, is making them feel like something that exists outside of you. Because you're always the most important person in that universe.
When we released our top female antagonist episode, this game was actually recommended to us from one of our viewers, and they said that the antagonist was, one of their favorites. And, so I was like, okay, that's pretty high praise if you think she belongs on, there with Kerrigan and Flemeth and whatnot, but she totally does.
Good. Oh, I'm so excited.
It's just totally solid, and even First Light, the expansion, it adds some more dimensions to the characters. It left me wanting more.
Good.
In a very genuine way, as opposed to I felt like I didn't have a complete package way. So yeah. That's my pick.
Nice. Wow, I feel really inadequate after that. I told you what my games of the year would be, and you rephrased it back to me in the most pathetic way, but true. My game of the year are a playable teaser, 1/5 of an episodic adventure game, and also Octodad.
Yeah.
And they're all games I liked for very different reasons. I don't feel like I can throw the endorsement behind any of them that you just threw behind Infamous.
I'm kind of worried now that people are going to play and they're like, no, this isn't the second coming of games that Jaylee said it was,
This is either sad, or I don't know how you want to take this, but my game of the year is probably PT, the playable teaser for Silent Hills.
Which I actually think is really cool, that is your game of the year. Just because it was such an interesting idea and concept. We talked a lot about it in our water cooler for the episode, and you had a lot to say then. Yeah.
From start to finish, there was just so much to unpack, and then the actual process of unpacking it and the way that it brought this community together was just so fascinating and so just invigorating. And it made me excited about games and about the potential. Yeah, it's part of it. I don't want to just endorse it based on the fact that the circumstances made it feel important, because it is just also just really well crafted. It's made by people that understand what makes that genre tick. Both in film, you have those really great nods to things like Eraserhead, but then at the same time you have this really complex knowledge of what makes a game scary and how you can get into the player's head, and it does it in such a subtle way that at times, I think about this stuff because this is like my academic bread and butter, but I feel like you can get into that game and just let yourself get into that mood and just get lost in it, and it's just it's wonderful. It makes me so happy.
And I think it's really interesting that you bring up the community, because a lot of times when like gaming and community gets brought up, you know, you have like, you know, fighting games in their community, or shooters, or like MMOs, but you don't really hear about with like horror games, because they're usually such a solitary thing. So that the fact that there was that kind of community aspect for everybody trying to figure out, how do I beat this game? How do I finish it? Like, that was what made it like kind of tipped it over the scale, I think.
And I like that you brought up the fact that horror is usually so isolating, because that is partially what makes it scary. And this kind of found a way to kind of breathe new life into that, because like the way everybody came together, you know, we always come together and talk about games, and usually we get hooked up on like the story elements and stuff, because usually that's the easiest thing to communicate about. But like the fact that it brought everyone together to solve the puzzles, and that everyone was having this shared experience at the same time, it was so cool. I loved it.
I think that was definitely like one of my favorite gaming, like just overall gaming moments of the year, is just people trying to figure out how to get that phone to ring.
It was finally solved by a YouTube user called The Great Debate, and like just watching his video and seeing the steps he took to finally solve that puzzle too, that was really exciting, because it like there was some real code breaker stuff going on in there. And it was like, a part of me is like, oh my god, I will never beat the game by myself if the like final Silent Hill says anything like this. But I just loved the way that it took a whole community to put that together, and then it was really exciting when there was a breakthrough, and it felt like you got to, even though I wasn't the one that solved it, it felt like I was participating in that moment of culture. So yeah, PT, that's my GOTY.
The counterpoint to the kind of, you know, sad, my rendition of what our Game of the Year picks were, and mine was, and Jaylee's Games of the Year were sequels to JRPGs no one asked for. And that's because I actually really liked both Tales of Xillia 2, which I felt like built off everything in the original, which I loved. Also, Lightning Returns, which was, nobody asked for it, nobody wanted it, but it was really fun, and it was so quirky and strange. It kind of gave you this emotional closure to a series that was kind of exhausting.
So now I'm sure everyone's dying to know what my 1/5 adventure game is. The Walking Dead, episode 3 of season 2, which I'm sure if you listen to the episode where we talked about it at length, and by we, I mean I would not let anybody else talk.
And by anybody, she means me.
Yeah. Of course, it's my favorite. It represented everything that Telltale could possibly get right, and the potential of it. It posed this really interesting question as far as like what your role is in this world, who are you going to be, and then it all went to crap after that. But you know what? I'm going to preserve episode 3.
Yeah, we'll always have episode 3.
We'll always have episode 3, and what we felt then during a more innocent time. But we did a lot of Telltale stuff this year.
You know, Telltale kind of encapsulates some of my favorites and least favorites of the year, because they did have that episode. And then they also had the final episode.
Which is so bad.
They also had Sarah dying and all that terribleness behind the scenes that led to it. But then they had Wolf Among Us, which was like so solid, other than just a few weird things at the end. And then they released 2 new games. So they had 4 games this year, which is just ridiculous. And I think that those 2 games, I'm not going to give away much because I really do want to do water coolers about them in future episodes.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to play them yet.
But I do think that those also encapsulate the best and the worst. But you'll have to look forward to the episodes to figure out which.
Oh no, because I only bought one of them. But yeah, I mean, playing as Clementine was, when it was good, it was like the most rewarding thing I'd played in a long time besides PT. Because they got that balance of how to just kind of get in and define a character and kind of make you feel like you have agency in this world. But also, I think they did a really good job also, both in the way they phrase like the marketing campaigns as well as just kind of in the game itself, not making it an ownership of her. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like one of the problems when Tomb Raider was first in the process of being promoted. There's a lot of talk from like the developers that was just really unfortunately worded. Things like, we make you want to protect her instead of instead of treating her like any other game character you'd want to enable and have this great adventure in. And I think even though Clementine is a child and she's a girl, they did a really good job of fostering that feeling, not of wanting to protect her, but of wanting to define her. and be her and help her succeed or fail in a way that is narratively satisfying. So, and Walking Dead just gave us some really wonderful, horrible choices that really let us play in that playground and get our hands dirty and feel terrible, but in the most wonderful way possible.
I think something that we can both agree on, and something that we were joking about last year that I don't think actually ever made it into an episode, where we were like, we were joking like, oh yeah, Octodad's going to be the best game of the year next year. And it was.
It's exactly what it says on the box.
It perfectly does what they set out to do.
And it's joyful.
And even though it can be like one of the most frustrating games ever, there is so much charm behind the mechanics that are frustrating that you're just kind of like, I can't stay mad at you, you know?
Like, there was a moment where, like, I had one of his legs, like, wrapped completely around, like, the wedding chapel arch, and I could not move, and I was just spinning, and it was like, this would be terrible in any other game, but because it's a secret octopus, it's hilarious. And it's, like, it's a good game also that, like, you cannot be good at it, regardless of your experience level.
And I feel like if you are good at it, you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah. And so it's like, you can hand it to anybody, like, check out this game. No, really. And everybody will think it's funny and just be terrible at it. And that's what makes it wonderful.
I actually played it 2-player with my boyfriend, which is completely a new can of worms. It was some very testing times. But it was just like not only playing an octopus, but only playing one side of an octopus and kind of just shouting, be like, move. No, you move. No, I've got the thing. Which side are you on? I mean, like, it was one of the strangest, most fun multiplayer experiences I've had all year.
Yeah, I bet. I haven't gotten to play it 2-player. I forgot it was 2-player. Shoot. That kind of reminds me of WarioWare. Like, that was a game for a while that, you know, if I had friends over or something, it was like, okay, let's play a game. Because all you need is one remote. No one is good at that game, and that's the point. Like, everyone looks ridiculous. And so you just end up just screaming things at the TV and each other, and people are hopping around on one foot, and, like, it's funny. And that's what it made me think of, because there is no, like, good way to play it. You're silly, you're falling all over yourself, and that's the point. There are a lot of games that we played this year that were perfectly solid games that, you know, did what they set out to do, like Octodad. But I couldn't put on my Game of the Year list just because we had so many games that I played last year that felt important while I was playing them. Like, you play Gone Home and you know this is an important game. You play A Link Between Worlds and you're like, wow, this is an important game. It's doing something that no one has done before. But this year I guess, like I said, I think I was just a bad picker and I didn't get to any of those kinds of games this year. The games I played, a lot of them were solid. Like, I got to play a little bit of Alien Isolation. I liked what I played. Dragon Age. I
was just about to say, should we mention Dragon Age?
I think we should do a little bit.
2 hours later.
Yeah, because Dragon Age Inquisition is a game I think you just finished, and I just started my first real playthrough.
Well, you finished it, but you're, like, replaying it in a more thorough capacity, I guess? Is that?
Yeah. We're going to do more episodes on this, I'm sure. But, like, the way I play Bioware games is I do a really quick run-through, and then I after I know the story beats, I make a character and have a very planned trajectory for them. I
don't really replay games, but I do think that the Bioware games are ones that are a lot more fulfilling on your second playthrough.
Yes, and it is. It has been, because I was very non-committal on my first, because, like, I don't really know what this is going to do. And now this time, like, my first playthrough, I just played this lady who was just kind of there. She didn't make any important decisions. She's just like, I don't know. It was awful. But yeah, so Dragon Age Inquisition has some really weird design choices, some of which are very frustrating, but at the same time it's pretty solid. And I feel like it's going to be a lot of year-end lists, but I don't think I can put it on mine.
I know what you mean. And it's one of those things where I want it to be on other people's Game of the Year list, because it's so important, because, you know, you have all these, you know, queer options. There's actually a trans character, and there's so much to it. Because I had very high expectations. Dragon Age 2, with all of its flaws, is very dear to me. So it kind of fell short, just in odd ways, which we'll definitely unpack later.
Really weird ways. It's the kind of thing you're sitting there and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? It's like not game breaking, but just really? But also, like, we're talking about kind of games that have like a but like Super Smash Brothers came out this year. Mario Kart 8 came out this year. Those were really good games.
Those were solid, yeah. Mario Kart 8 is the most fun I've had with a Mario Kart game since the Super Nintendo. So,
yeah, like, I agree. And like, I think also it really benefited from the new web features, the growth of social media around it.
Luigi.
Yes, exactly. Like, I thought the game was really fun, like really, really fun. But the Luigi memes are hilarious.
Yeah.
And they never stop being hilarious. I think about them and I laugh during the day sometimes.
Yeah.
Again, just like PT and Walking Dead 3, like it created a cultural moment in addition to a great game.
So that does it for Push to Smart for 2014. These are our Game of the Year picks, and since we didn't have as many as we did last year, we're looking for your suggestions during the post-holiday season. So let us know in the comments below which games you loved most this year, and what you think about our choices. And don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date on all our latest episodes.
If you really are the captain, then dance the captain's jig. Interesting.